Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for joining the Commonwealth Chamber for this important event where we're going to be diving into the dynamic, vibrant and rapidly growing ecosystem of startups and budding SMEs in Bangladesh. I'm Julia Charlton, Chair of the Commonwealth Chamber of Commerce and today's moderator. So since our event last year looking at Dhakar's startup scene, this South Asian Commonwealth nation, Bangladesh, has improved its startup climate, and it's now the 89th largest startup ecosystem internationally, according to the Global Startup Ecosystem Index 2023. What makes Bangladesh's achievements in this area impressive is the fact that Bangladesh has achieved this in a matter of just 6 years. Despite being new to the international arena of startups, the ecosystem now has more than 2,500 active startups, and venture investment has nearly tripled, reaching over $742 million US, due in part to Bangladesh's talented and STEM-centric workforce. So our event today will be an in-depth exploration of what strengths and unique qualities of Bangladesh have led to such impressive growth, how the country's harnessing these strengths through government and private sector initiatives, and also the many challenges that are yet to be overcome for the country to continue its ascent to prominence on the global platform for startup ecosystems. This is a huge topic of great importance and interest, and I'm delighted to be joined by two exceptional participants who are immersed in Bangladesh's startup ecosystem and are going to share with us their valuable insights. First, we have Mahmood Hassan. Mahmood is the Asia Pacific Director of the Council of Global Startups and is the CEO of Zovo Team, a digital design and marketing agency geared towards tech companies and startups in Bangladesh. Over the years, Zovo Team has also expanded its services to include consultation for startups to support their business development. Mahmood has built up the Zovo Team from scratch, initially with just one other partner, and Zovo Team was named the top brand in Bangladesh R&D during the Research and Development Awards by Acquisition International in 2022, and in the same year was also named the best ecosystem development brand startup Dhaka by the quarterly online magazine Innovation and Business by AI Global Media. Mahmood, it's great to have you here with us today. And our other speaker and participant is Yasser Arafat. Yasser is a member of the mentorship panel of CGS and is the founder and CEO of BuyNow.biz, an e-commerce platform and digital payment company for one-shop's e-commerce channel that has gained rapid prominence in the South Asian nation markets, ranking among the top 6 in the Bangladesh Youth Leadership Center, Cohort 4. BuyNow has received grants from the Innovation, Design and Entrepreneurship Academy and Microsoft's Highway to 100 Unicorns apprenticeship program, and also investment, I'm told, from venture capital firms, including Sequoia Capital. Prior to his entrepreneurial journey with BuyNow.biz and the Council of Global Startups since November 2020, Yasser managed the accounts and merchandise supply chains of several fast manufactured consumer goods companies, including Peacocks and Tex Life Sourcing, building brands from scratch and leading their marketing campaigns. Yasser, I'm really delighted that you're with us today. So to start things off, I'd like to give the floor to Mahmood, as he's kindly prepared a presentation for us to discuss his and Yasser's work in the Council of Global Startups. And he's going to tell us more about the exciting developments happening in Bangladesh. And with that, Mahmood, over to you.
Thanks, our Honorable Chairman, Ms. Julia Charlton, for giving the opportunity to me introduce our Bangladesh startup. And I'm sharing my screen about like that, how we can be improved in some of the major industries. So I think my screen is clear and everything is look like amazing. So today we are here engaged with like leaders, trials and treatments of the Bangladesh startup ecosystem. So we will discuss about like that, how Bangladesh startup ecosystem is growing up we know that is a rapidly growth from the last 5 years, as we know the data analysis. So we can see like that. So we are here to discuss about like the highlights about Bangladesh startup ecosystem and overall the country ecosystem, not only Bangladesh startup, but we also are trying to highlight our overall Bangladesh country overview. So we see that like in 2021 and the end of 2022, Bangladesh is growing the GDP at the $460 billion as a GDP. And there's a lot of highly resilience like that comparison during COVID-19. We know that COVID-19 is one of the major pandemic in the world. We see that there's a lot of changes in our country. We see that there's economically observation. We see that there's a lot of country has been decreased there, and there's also increased the price, and also there's a money inflation is going up. So as a growth drive under driven economic growth, Bangladesh is like the booms on the globally and not only Asia. There's a solid optimization, rise in consumption, a young growing workforce. We are the one of the youngest manforce like that. In our country also there's a supply, some of the workers in Saudi Arab, like Dubai, and a lot of Middle East country also hire workers for the highly. And there are also high economic resolutions, and with the digital momentum, government shaping in the economy, and also fast growing private sector, not only government sector, there's also a lot of opportunity in fast growing private sector. And it has also second largest apparel exporter. So we see that Bangladesh is just growing is a step by step on the stage like that, comparing to India, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand. Bangladesh is doing really good comparison between the countries. As what happened in 2022, already we are happening in like that. Our startup ecosystem is growing up from 2018 and now is running 2023. But what the happening in the 2022? As a beginning of BD, we see that from the startup building research and development, they say that Bangladesh is one of the fastest growing 89 stage of the ecosystem. There are also funding and is there some of the factor, the analysis like that. The Bangladesh is out of 100 and the position is held on the 89th position in Bangladesh. So the like Dhaka is one of the good can be good startup hub for our Bangladeshi people, because Bangladesh is the capital of Bangladesh, and there is a lot of the opportunity and benefits we can be held from the overall. So as we see like that, there is a some graphs about like that, how many startup has been raised their fund in 2022 and 2022 as a 1 and 2. There's a lot of differences. Why starting is pandemic, our startup ecosystem has been raised 60 million USD, and upcoming 2022 and 2021, there's a difference between totally 450 million USD dollar, and 50% has been raised by bKash, and then 2022 was $109 million. But currently, we see that 2021 is one of the best and performance-based year for the startup ecosystem. There have been raised a lot of money from the foreign investors and venture capitals. So as we discussed today about like that, how our startup founders and they're like the startup, how they survey, and from the according to the research and survey and interviews, they share with us like that they need some of the challenges and to solve it as much as possible. As we discussed like one-to-one seminar session, we find out like that they need a mentorship like idea stage to MVP stage or product stage. So we see that in Bangladesh, there is some of the gap in ecosystem development, because government and private sector just allow for the MVP stage, not the idea stage. So if we find out like that, if you can push the idea stage startup, then it can be made more improvement on our ecosystem. So there's a lot of challenges for investment and support desks, because there is no dedicated startup investment and support desk for entrepreneur, because they need to maybe talk with the previous entrepreneurs or the past entrepreneurs who did the startups too. And On the other hand, legal risks and legal support is one of the major part, because as a startup founder, if you don't know how to cope up with the investment policy and how to formation your startup to like the private limited or partnership, right? Or you can move on to the IPO for the stock market listing. So there's a need to a proper ecosystem and community, because if you see that on our neighbors country like India has a lot of community and ecosystem organization. They are dedicated for the startup, and they try to solve like that. If you have the resource, then it can be just resource sharing, knowledge sharing. So in Bangladesh, there is no proper ecosystem and community, and past 2 years, we are trying to develop a proper ecosystem and community with startup research and development. At the end of resource, SOP, and guideline and policy. Recently, Bangladesh Bank has been declared a policy for startup, but there is no progress in SOP or like guideline to follow the some of the instructions between the government and the startup. And as a last stop, bank and financial institution assistance, because Bangladesh is totally friendly with corporate and SME, but on the come with the bank and financial institution, there is a lot of like that you need to submit some of the papers and lot of statement to prove yourself like that you are the ethical startup. So we just find out this kind of problem between research, survey, and interview, not only randomly picked, but we just talk about more than 200 plus startup like that, how they face the challenges in Bangladesh. Then we can just move on this opportunity in Bangladesh startup ecosystem according to the industry size and innovation. Also, there is some of the missing industry like fintech, and also the after the IT industry, healthcare industry, agro industry, mobile and mobility and transport industry. So if you see like that, IT industry is a 9th highest mobile phone subscriber in the world from Bangladesh, and 9th highest internet user in world, and 29th high-tech park in ITS industry. Bangladesh government is hardly support to the IT and IT-based entrepreneurs. If you need the co-space or governmental grant support, they also support from their ICT ministry, like they also established idea and big Bangabandhu Innovation Grant to encourage the youngest entrepreneurs to move on the space. And also there's opportunity healthcare industry, like domestic market increase affordability, current low per capita spending combined, increasing accessibility and telemedicine. So there is a lot of opportunity in healthcare industry. If you see that agro industry is one of the biggest industry for our country, because agro industry has been contributed a lot to GDP. It's about 60% and contributing about like GDP. So if you see like Bangladesh, as you know, that is a green, and there's a lot of space to like that produce some of the foods and goods. If you see that mobility and transport industry, we know that Bangladesh have a lot of traffic, and there's if you see that it's a populated country. So then we see that in scope and out of scope, local and regulational transport by road, water, rail, and air is the most common transport systems. So is out of scope the tickets for long distance public transport. Also, we see that a lot of startup has been entry to solve this kind of problem. So today, as we know that I'm from Council of Global Startup as a working Asia Pacific director. So today I'm trying to elevate our how Council of Global Startup or CGS is creating improving Bangladesh startup ecosystem. So we also focusing into some of the Asia-based or like Commonwealth-based country, but mostly we just working dedicatedly overall the more than across 200 plus country. But as a Asia, we just hardly focus on Bangladesh, because Bangladesh need to be grow up more and more. So at the end of CGS and its partners are working to solve a problem. Not only CGS, but we also partner with more than 200 plus brand, organizations, chamber of commerce, and individual to solve together, like mentorship. We just providing idea stage and prototype stage, MVP stage. If you have like as an entrepreneur, you have just one idea and you need to utilize it more and more, but you didn't get any mentorship, any guideline, then TGS offering boot camps, cohort programs, and short-term, long-term mentorship as a free, and also some of the paid also available. Startup investment support and desk. We also develop a dedicated startup investment and support desk for Bangladesh startup ecosystem. So if you need like that, if you already made some of the traction, or you already have the idea and you need to implement on the base of fund, then you can apply through our channel as a startup investment support desk. We're also providing like local and to global angel investment to venture capital, also legal desk and legal support. We, as previously I said, that Bangladesh startup need to assist the legal desk, because if you are an investor or the startup founder, you don't know how to form the company and how to utilize the memorandum of association, and like that, how do you make the legal assessment on your investor or startups. So then we build a legal desk, legal support dedicated to according to the Supreme Court. We also develop a legal desk and legal support dedicated for a startup. They're providing consultation, assessment, and legal assistance as you need. Proper ecosystem and community. Past 2 year, as I said, also the past 2 year proper ecosystem and community is playing big role. We also develop a ecosystem that's called by Startup Research and Development, BSRD, one of the copyrighted and registered ecosystem of Bangladesh. Then we also providing resources, training, SOP for the, like if your startup come from the fintech or health tech, like if you're providing from agrotech, then you need to maintain like some of the standard operating procedure. Then we suggest some of the like scope and which kind of clause you need to include your company organizational structure. Then bank and financial institution assistant. We also partnered more than 3+ bank in the world for solving the locally and globally banking and financial supports. So as ecosystem connectivity and ecosystem, we develop an ecosystem that's called the Startup Research and Development, that's dedicated for community innovation and funding for startup. We see that within 7 months, we connect more than 3,500+ founders in BD. There's a totally from like youngest and old is lot of people are engaged with us in startup research and development. And as a young, to making the empowerment to the young student, we also establish a pilot program. It's like a club model that's called Graphical Institute Entrepreneur Startup Club. It has been dedicated for graphical institution student. They engage more than 800+. Also, we find out some of the entrepreneur, young entrepreneur, we have the ideas and already they develop MVP stage. So we as an ecosystem connectivity, because as a ecosystem developer, we need to ecosystem connectivity with those organizations that are dedicated to support the startup. As we know that our notable partners for BD, for dedicated, we partner with like Green Tech Foundation in Bangladesh. They're also providing grants, training, incubation, and co-working space for its founders, and also use Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industry to maintain the US and Bangladesh, like the startup ecosystem real problem. If you are a startup from Bangladesh, if you need to help from US and you're trying to move on globally, like if you're based on US, then US Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce is here to help you. Jobo Team, as from my brand, also we also assign Jobo Team Limited for to maintain the quality of the contents, their business development to move on the Asia region or the Middle East region to something like that. Also, there is a bank, it's called SBI, State Bank of India. It's from an India traditional bank, but there's operating more than 100+ countries, also Bangladesh too. They're providing startup policy to solve the funding space of the Bangladesh startup ecosystem need. Also, Hostever, one of the Bangladesh web hosting and domain provider, they are also supporting from us with since 2017 as unofficially. Officially, they are also engaged with us as an ecosystem partner from 2022. And also we engage some of the tech gen, that's called Microsoft for a startup, Harvest for a startup, Google for a startup, lot of brand included with for the resource purpose. They are supported with us for the development ecosystem of Bangladesh. So as we done some of the assessment one-to-one session, and they're like based of their activity, we find out that top 10 notable startup in our ecosystem like Uddokta Pay, OTTSeva.com, Cloudsoft, GoFood, Consel, Telemedicine Counseling, Medix, Blockboard, one of the blockchain and NFT based, T-Fabric, School Bus, and Polybonic are one of the 10 based of performer in our ecosystem that are dedicated for their like problem solving on customer end or user end. Also, we see that Blockgoat, one of the like blockchain-based startup, but there's a totally focus on globally. And as a fintech solution or like the fintech software, Uddokta Pay is performing really great. There's a solving like every stage of startup. If they need the system of the running the payment collection, the Uddokta Pay also support. And Cloudsoft is one of the digital commerce solution. They're providing like free bid and no code revolution in our country. They're really doing great. And Console Health, telemedicine counseling, they're not focusing on the best of the industry, but there's a focusly on the if your mental health and like the psychological. And Medic, the connecting healthcare, is one of the great and performance really good and really impressed by their vision and mission, and their focus on the rural area of Bangladesh. And if you see that T-Fabric is one of the printing is belongs to printing industry, and it's come from Graphic Institute Entrepreneur Startup Club is one of the startup. There's including the AR and VR technology on the startup. So School Bus is from Chattogram, and they're providing across the Chattogram division for the solving the like. If you see that also I discuss about like the transport and mobility, there is a lot of gap and a lot of problem, including the School Bus is trying to solve the connectivity with parents, school, and safely do something like that the students. And Polybonic is totally is a fashionable brand that try to build a startup to solve rural area to capital to solve the every lifestyle problems. So in TGS, as a Council of Global Startup, we have the potential startup fund capacity. And for the Bangladesh, we have raised recently 510 CR BDT by bank and few angel investor. If you are as a global startup, then you also opportunity to raise the fund from our network is about 60 billion USD by global venture capital and bank, and it will be also done by angel investors. So there's also a good opportunity to pitch your idea, and if you're impressed to our investor or bank, then there's also possibility to rise as much as possible. So from leadership, as a Council of Global Startup, this is Mahmoud Hassan, Asia Pacific Director. I'm also attached my email ID. If you have any question regarding CGS, you can ask by our email, or also you can reach out me, Facebook, LinkedIn, also available on the platform. So there is our global panelist for BD and Commonwealth country is the Honorable President and Founder, Mr. Liton Ahmed. He is a president of US Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He is trying to solve our ecosystemic problem between US and Bangladesh. And also Mr. Andy Joynal Abedin, our honorable global panelist. As the past year, he was the ex-assistant secretary of Federation of Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industry and ex-secretary of Dhaka Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Recently, he developed a venture that's called Bangladesh Trade Center, dedicated for the Bangladesh and between the global trade sector. For a mentorship panel, we engage a lot of experts from our networks. It's about like there's a 10+ mentorship panel, but for the dedicated in Bangladesh, Mr. Ishak Mohammed Infas, he is from Microsoft Southeast Asia market. He's the one of the mentoring panel of tech and startup, and today also engaged with Yasir Arafat Bhai, mentoring panel council global startup. He already dedicated for the every kind of stage of startup, not only English your idea, you can share anything about like to our Yasir Arafat Bhai. So in Commonwealth country, we see that Commonwealth Chamber of Commerce is really did some amazing work. There's also opportunity of network, advocacy, event, and partnership, sharing, and connectivity. So as a CGS, we engage with Commonwealth Chamber of Commerce, not only for the like single country, but we also focus on every country to solve out like the startup related problem. So if you don't know about Commonwealth Advantage, I request to you can visit Commonwealth Chamber of Commerce.com. As a Commonwealth Chamber of Commerce.com, then you find out trade, investment, and every kind of business stage of business. So I'm just trying to utilize our whole conversation between Bangladesh and CGS with like our audience on who connect with us. So our main goal is to creating a sustainable startup ecosystem in Bangladesh. So it's not a like a small thing, it's a big thing to as an entrepreneur. I'm also an entrepreneur, so I feel like that if you can create a sustainable startup ecosystem in Bangladesh, then our Bangladesh can be made global venture, global startup for the across the world. We see that there's a lot of opportunity. If you find as a first to last, I'm sharing some of the slides about regarding Bangladesh, like the challenges, opportunity, and how CGS is solving the whole thing. And also the Commonwealth Chamber of Commerce are really focusing on the connectivity partnership and a lot of the training institute. So that's the my some of the points regarding, and I think I'm ending our slides, so we can move on the next thing, Ms. Julia Chand.
Thank you, Mahmood. That was really great. And it was fascinating to hear about all these different startups that you mentioned in Bangladesh. And it would be wonderful on another occasion to maybe deep dive into some of the more details of some of those businesses. They're very interesting. But before we discuss more about the overview that you've given, I'd like to ask Yasser to say a few words about the Council of Global Startups and Yasser, your own experience in working in Dhaka's entrepreneurial ecosystem. And then after that, we'll have some conversations and we will answer any questions which people watching this event have put in the Q&A. So Yasser, tell me a little bit about your journey.
Okay, thank you very much, Julia, for giving me the chances to speak something. So, actually, my journey as a founder of a startup is great, really great. But so we're actually a little bit early stage founder from Dhaka ecosystem, Dhaka startup ecosystem. So of course, early stage has some challenges, but some exciting journey as well. So being a founder, actually, we all the founders in Bangladesh are very much driven. So actually, and they're very much dedicated to solve some big problems of the society, of the countries, and eventually convert it into a startup model, a scalable startup model. And of course, we have our founders have a very good strengths in building a good business models, technological part, since we have a lot of computer engineers in Bangladesh here. So eventually, right now, they're being part of the different global startups as well as CTOs. So and eventually, so working with this like super founders is really great. And also one thing I want to mention that female founded startups are growing massively. So right now there are at least around 1,500 startups led by the female founders, and it would be great to know that our latest contest, startup contest ran by the ICT Ministry, which is called Bangabandhu Innovation Grant, and there were total 6,823 startups participated this year. So there is a huge number of startups. So these startups are basically in early stages. And among them, at least 20% are female founded.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yes, the same, of course. And at some females are directly running by the CEOs, and even many startups nowadays preferring the female CEOs, because eventually, because we have seen that they are doing really, really great. They're all from the different startup backgrounds, also the emerging tech companies, and also they're doing great. So in one sentence, Bangladesh startup ecosystems is doing great right now.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Yasser. So let's dive into some discussion, shall we? So Mahmood, can you tell me, and Yasser, do chip in, what led to you to create the Council of Global Startups? You know, what was your journey in setting that up?
Well, when I'm at Riyadh City as a capital of Saudi Arab, so my journey started from there as a CGS Asia Pacific. So I'm discussing about regarding our Bangladesh opportunity and our scope and advances. So then I made Asia Pacific panel of CGS on the LEAF 2023. It was the tech event of Saudi Arab and held in Riyadh. There's across everything like one lakh, maybe there's a amount the 1 million plus tech innovator engaged with LEAF 2023. Then I'm discussing about like our opportunity in Asia region, in Bangladesh South region. So they offer me to, so then we can be move on Bangladesh too. So then after my experience, my knowledge, and my portfolio, they assigned me as the specific director to dedicatedly solve the Asia region based. In our structure, there's more than 30 plus country that's dedicated to around the list of the CGS. So it was started from 2022 as a yearly of maybe the mid of June month. It was discussing regarding about the Bangladesh. Then I meet them in 2023 at the February month as a running of the year. Then we made some of the plans initiative for our ecosystem. We also discussed Riyadh Chamber of Commerce and Riyadh the Ministry of Commerce, how we can be engaged on the Asia Pacific based startup to as a Middle East or Europe or US, UK, and also South Africa too. So then we made some panels based of the country, because if you see like that, one is the come of the expertise. Most of entrepreneurs is well known about his ecosystem, problems, solutions, and everything. So that's why we try to assign as a mentorship panel, as like Yasir Arafat Bhai, one of the mentorship panel. He is an expert on fintech, e-commerce, digital commerce, and also he mentoring of like every stage of his startup. So then we try to utilize the resource of the as a resource of the human, as then we find out the some running Chamber of Commerce presidents and ex-Chamber of Commerce president, because in the past of the career they are working too much on the commercial policies, advocacy on the whole country. So that's why we try to add some global panelists for especially BD. Then we add like ex-secretary, ex-president, ex-chairman of the some of the renowned and ecosystemal working development. So we also try to engage in the local startup for the yearly, because we need to know their challenges, because when in the come of the challenge, then the solution is absolutely here. So we try to contact with my startup research and development, one of the panelists and members, and we discussed what kind of challenges also faced on our ecosystem. So we find out like that there's a lot of startups say to us like we need a mentorship, we need like the product improvement support. Not only the fund is the crisis of the Bangladesh, but they need proper mentorship, proper guidelines, how they can come and move like step 1, step 2, step 3 for they're achieving the dream. When I'm discuss with founders, I'm also feel motivated and then feel also motivated to something doing for our country, because startups not only working for the profits, they're also working for the problem solutions. Then we find out a lot of industry like blockchain, health tech, food tech, and e-commerce like digital commerce, fintech. Also, there's a fashion, is a fashion-based industry. So we find out more than 10 plus industry. That's really good. That's why we immediately assign panelists, members from our CGS, so there can be support immediately. We don't wait for the action. When is the come from from the purpose of the Asia region, immediately we try to utilize our training boot camps from the our CGS council. Also, we did some of the webinars and like boot camps as a cohort for the testing, like how they can be feel the comfortable, because when they come the friendly environment, friendly conversation, then it can be made more powerful as an ecosystem developer. So that's the concept of our CGS and how I am engaged and
Thank
how
you very
I
much, Mahmood. Thank you. Thanks. That's fascinating. So Mahmood mentioned that, you know, there's particular challenges that obviously startups face, but Yasser, I wonder if you could tell me about maybe some examples of particular challenges that you've seen startups in Bangladesh face, because I mean, startups everywhere face a lot of challenges. Yasser, if you could maybe share some examples from life in Bangladesh, but as a startup.
Yes, of course. So it's like, of course, startups are often facing a lot of challenges. They're facing the challenges of actually solving the challenges of the country's societies. But somebody or some group has to come forward to solve their problem as well. So from there, so if I'm talking about my recent experience, that while actually the biggest takes place, so there are a lot of startups. In fact, around 10 startups knocked me for the mentorship only. So actually, some of them are struggling with the business model, some of them struggling with the funding, some of them with the co-founders. So there are a lot of challenges. Some are founders.
Tell me some issues about co-founders. That's always an interesting issue, isn't it?
Yes. Co-founder issues. One thing I always say that first they have to know that which co-founders they have needed in their startup. Usually, we always recommended that a startup should have a CEO, and CTO, since there is a important technical part, and technology must usually preferable is in-house. We are built by in-house team. But other than in some, usually many startup came to me that they have only CEO, maybe CFO, CMO, but there is no CEO or CTO. So they are struggling with their co-founders. At that case, we are trying to match co-founders, similar-minded, likely-minded co-founders with the startups to go forward.
Right. So do you see that most startups end up changing their business model or pivoting? You know, do you see a lot of that happening?
Actually, early stages startups are always based on some hypotheses.
Yes.
So actually, unless you are doing piloting, you don't know whether this hypothesis will be sticked or not, whether it is working or not. So in that cases, when actually they are doing piloting, maybe and also piloting, while actually doing their piloting or testing MVPs, they will require funds. So many early stage startups has a lack of fund, so they can't test the MVP or piloting. So in that case, they will need an expert mentorship who has a very strong understanding on the business model. So with the help of that consultant or mentors, they actually they could find the right business model until then, they need to iterate their plan or maybe pivot their plan.
Yes.
Even I'm talking about one example that my recent portfolio startup, which is an agro prop tech named Epoli. So previously they are doing agro financing model. But when actually I have started mentoring them, I turned them into agro prop tech, since they have a very strong, their founders have a very strong proposition in property acquisition.
Mhm.
And eventually they are appreciated throughout the contest.
Right, right. What kind of documentation do startups in Bangladesh usually use? Is there any sort of standard form agreements between
Okay,
founders, or how do people normally set up a startup?
Okay, so first thing is usually before building MVP or before actually trying the product into the market, they don't have the standard agreement.
Mhm.
So in according to Bangladesh law, a business must have a trade license and also RGSC certificate, RGSC registration, which is run by the Register of Joint Stocks.
Mhm.
So they must need to have this certification or this in order to form a startup or company, is the usual process usually.
So do they have any particular forms of agreement? You know, like there's some
Oh, okay.
particular
In that
funding
case,
agreements sometimes people would use in this kind of market, or, you know, is there
Say-
any standard forms developed in the Bangladesh market?
okay. For the standard format, it is either they are using proprietorship or partnership or even the limited company. And for the investment, usually people here love to invest in equity partnership, but nowadays SAFE is also gaining popularity.
Yeah, I wondered about that.
Yeah.
It's like that. They also did some of the agreement on the partnership agreement and
Yeah.
equity transfer agreement, like fund transfer agreement. That's they usually did as a by law of Bangladesh. They usually
Right.
did here.
So has the CGS developed any particular sort of standard formats that people might use as a basis for these?
Yeah, we
That's
did
okay.
for the Bangladesh. We did for the three industries called
Mm.
about health tech and fintech and also agrotech. For the three industry, also are running on the some of the industry to develop the more standard. So we did some of the SOPs called standard procedure like that operation. So we need we try to utilize it more and more. So that's why we pick up some our members like 5 startup, how they can improve it like follow. When it come up, then we can be is public to our whole country,
Mhm.
so they can be followed. So
Yeah.
that's why we try to testing some, we find out some of the challenges and try to easy as much as possible. So there is a also made 3 industry based SOP, but we also working on the more industry in 2023, we also have the plan to develop more than SOP or about 10 industry base. That's the common or like that boost up on the country.
Do you think-
Actually,
Sorry, Yasser, you carry on.
okay. I just added one point
Yeah,
that
please.
actually early stage startup has the lack of documentation
Yeah,
strength.
it's true.
So basically, this is where actually we can actually Commonwealth can help
Yeah, I was
to
thinking that. Yeah. But,
actually.
you know, all startups are lacking everywhere. They all lack
Yeah.
documentation.
Yeah,
You know, that's a common issue, and often
yeah,
the
it's a combination.
business changes very fast, and so the documentation doesn't keep up with it. But I do think it may be helpful to develop a sort of suite of that standard documentation. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Do you think that the government, do people feel that the Bangladesh government does enough to support startups? And, you know, they probably do to some extent, but are there areas where people feel, well, the government could help a bit more?
Actually, I must thank our government, especially our ICT ministry.
Mm.
Actually, they are the, I think they are actually come in front totally to help startups. And till now, they have given grant to more than 500 startups.
Mm-hmm.
And also Bangladesh government has formed one venture capitalist company as well to fund it funded all scalable startups, and from there they have funded more around 40 startups till now. So that's how our government came to empowering the startup ecosystem.
That's really helpful, isn't it? And are those mainly startups in Dakar, or is it across the country?
Yes, right now it is across the country.
Right.
All of our divisional cities has high-tech parks and also startup communities to empowering, and right now the startup culture is fascinating among the young entrepreneurs.
Wow, that's really exciting to know, isn't it? That's fantastic. Yeah. So what kind of digital marketing trends, Mahmood, do you see shaping the future of the industry in Bangladesh?
Well, as a background from the digital marketing, so you see that in the digital marketing industry, people try to utilize the momentum marketing strategy, content marketing strategy. Also, they're active on the search engine optimizations. There's a really playing a good role in the digital marketing industry, because as a startup or as any kind of entrepreneur, you need to rank up your startup more and more on Google or Bing and some of the search engine where people are searching like their products or buying services. So in Bangladesh, search engine optimization is the one of effective and is a boost up on the startup. Any kind of if you if you have any application or websites or website base, then you can utilize SEO strategy to find out your first customer or first your users as organically. Don't need to as an initial stage, you don't need to pay more much for the paid campaigns, advertising. But as initially, you can you see that there's trying some content marketing and webinars, like seminars, like podcasts also be most popular in the recent year. I saw that some of the brands are trying podcast in our country to discussing on the particular topic to engage their audience more and more. So I think for the recent few years, as digital marketing industries rapidly grow, it was maybe industry size was 1.5 billion, and is rapidly grow to the target of 3 billion on the end of the 2023 years. So I think there's also changes the revolution. AI has been entered the whole industry, and also people are trying to making some promo video with AI. They're trying to creating some the text with ChatGPT or OpenAI assistant. So in the digital marketing industry, also there's some of the creating some risk factor for the AI, because as a content, if you see that if you think as a content writer, for the Bangladesh region and some of the Asia region, the price of the offering as the client ends, there's is making more optimized, because if you see that when you command the AI, the content is totally ready to front of you. So there's some of the specific sector and skills are totally decreasing above the industry, but we also see some of the new platform Facebook has been launched Threads between Instagram as a link up, also Twitter trying to cope with the take worldwide is running. So we see that TikTok also doing great as we
I was wondering about
prominent
TikTok.
Brand.
But have you got any homegrown platforms like that in Bangladesh? Are there any homegrown digital platforms?
For the digital marketing, as you said, that Facebook is one of the best method in our country, because there's a lot of user from our Bangladesh, because one of the Facebook and YouTube is one of the best to trying some of the methods or concepts.
They're basically US platforms. I just wonder if you have any homegrown Bangladesh platforms.
No, there is no homegrown platforms regarding
having a homegrown platforms or messaging, for example.
There's also initiative is a Kotha, one of the initiative about a social platform. Yes, Arafat Bhai also known like that. Kotha is maybe is a idea portfolio, as I'm seeing that there's doing the meetings, social media, networking is some of the concept of the social media. But it's a few, it's some of the few, not like 2 or 3 startups are trying, but it didn't going well.
Yeah, I suppose it's very difficult to scale, really, isn't
Because
it?
the global competition is here. As
Yes.
locally, you need to be adopt on the trying to play with the audience mindset. It's totally
Yes.
like tough point.
Yes, yes. So, Yasser, when you're looking at your own e-commerce platforms like buynow.biz, can you share some insights as to how competitive you see this market and how your particular e-commerce platform compares with some other ones in Bangladesh? Yasser.
Okay, so first of all, my platform by now, it is actually though it look like e-commerce, but actually it is serving as a fintech.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you can see you can tell it e-com fintech. So and we are supporting Facebook entrepreneurs and as well as e-commerce entrepreneurs and also offline entrepreneurs simultaneously with our transaction management system. So as you are talking about the as like market, so our market is quite big. As I told you before, the total number of entrepreneurs is like 8.1 million right now. So it's a big market, but we are facing some challenges with the digital literacy. So people till now people like to use only Facebook, and I mean they're it's like contaminated. Actually they're it's like what I can say, they are only using a few platforms only, and actually so digital literacy is part of our journey. So, since we have a very strong technological part behind our apps and our services, so people must have some sort of digital literacy to use it. So we are facing challenges over there, but good thing is there are many other platforms are also working. These all are our homegrown platforms to empowering all these businesses. So of course we are overseeing a very good prospect in this sector right now.
Okay, so how do you overcome the fact that people are so used to these, ubiquitous, widely used platforms? Do you interface with these platforms, or how do you overcome the resistance to using different platforms?
Okay, right now we are going to niche-based marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So we are serving niche customers. So some particular customers actually we are giving trainings to how to use it. We are giving incentives to use it, and also the end customers. So that's how actually we are going further now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So somebody's put a question in the chat, which is interesting. Either of you could deal with this. How can you improve the logistics systems for e-commerce and decrease the delivery price? This sounds like a question from real life, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course,
Looking at the logistics.
Yes, of course. Actually, since this answer is I'm going to answering our audience. Okay, so BuyNow has a logistic aggregator platform. So why we built it? First one, people here, our e-commerce orders are totally cash driven. So people like to order based on cash on delivery. So that's why we have aggregated five logistics company, and another 6 or 7 are in the pipeline. So, but in current practice, all of our logistics company are giving service by their own individually. Actually, they are not aggregating each other. Mm-hmm. So unless they are not aggregating each other, so actually the cost will not low down. So one of our motto is it's like decreasing logistics cost by by aggregating all the logistics platform through our services.
Right, right.
And yes, Arafat bhai, one thing is like that between the war, Ukraine and Russia and something like that happening on the like currently there's a country, so there is also fuel price of the fuel has a improving is the like up. So I think
Yes.
it's also a matter factor. So that's why delivery brand also try to provide as much as budget friendly and cost effective. But once they come on the transport, then there is a like biggest barrier how to they
Right.
can solve. So by improving the government and private engagement, I think it can be possible to decrease the price like delivery of the e-commerce ecosystem.
You know, I don't see much, if any, platforms from Bangladesh which are, you know, available internationally for, and if people go online and buy things, they can be shipped to them internationally. Why does nobody in Bangladesh do that? Because you have loads of products. I mean, you have a lot of garments, you've got all kinds of things that could ship internationally direct from Bangladesh.
I think yes, Arafat is perfect for the answering the
Okay.
question.
Okay, so basically you are talking about cross-border e-commerce.
Yes.
So right now, since I'm also engaging with one of the e-commerce association. So from there we are strongly working on e-commerce, cross-border e-commerce. Because we have seen a lot of obstacles while actually we are managing the it's like when actually we are delivering from Bangladesh directly to end customers. So in that case, actually, we need to use or we need to introduce like smart logistics, smart global logistics model. And also payment is another challenge in
I was going to ask you about that. Is that the main reason? Because, you know, I mean, there's so much produced in Bangladesh that it's such a shame for it not to be going direct to outside markets.
Actually, in that case, since we are, of course, we are a lot of things producing in Bangladesh, but when actually we are going to export directly or through e-commerce, I mean, when we are going to deliver one or two items, so the delivery cost will be much higher.
Yeah.
In that case, so delivery cost will be a big challenge in that case, since our current logistics models is only supporting the bulk logistics,
Right.
bulk shipments.
Yeah.
So actually, so that's why I'm talking about global smart logistics system. Once we will have a different warehousing system or logistics system in different continents of the world, then we'll have a much better cross-border e-commerce facility. And of course, our it's like a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of marketplaces are trying to
Become a cross-border e-commerce.
Actually, become a cross-border e-commerce and promoting cross-border e-commerce to the foreign customers and as well as our entrepreneurs.
Yeah, because, you know, China has kind of done it well with AliExpress and so on.
Yeah.
Amazon from the US, from the UK, ships all over the world. I mean, but South Asia really, not just Bangladesh, really hasn't done that. But South Asia has so much to offer in terms of products that I think the rest of the world wants to buy.
Yes, and for this, many of our entrepreneurs are doing business through Amazon and Alibaba right now. And some of them, some also in the Etsy and other global marketplaces.
Yeah. No, I'm just interested in if there's any interest in a sort of more retail-based model for, you know, with obviously higher prices. But I suppose what you're saying is that none of the logistics at the moment is set up for this type of, you know, small retail orders, right? It's all set up for bulk orders at the moment.
Yes. Also, so actually from ECAP and from the individual initiatives, and also with the help of the business organizations and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we are trying to solve this problem. It's like actually we are giving a combined effort to solve this problem.
Well, I guess, yes, it's not a problem, it's an opportunity, right?
Huge opportunity.
Yes, yes, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's been so interesting talking to you, but I'd like to hear from both of you, well, each of you. First of all, where do you see Bangladesh startups in 5 years' time? And secondly, where do you see yourselves in 5 years' time? So Mahmood, maybe you first.
Sure. So as my thoughts and our planning, we are trying to make some startup like quality with startup. Like when is the come of the global evolution or revolution, then we as our plan for the like upcoming 5 years, how we can see our ecosystem. So our vision is to like a flexible ecosystem, flexible support and friendly environment for the startup, because in currently it is like like ABCD and CD is like totally different, like there's a separate from each other. So my vision is to connect every individual, every government, private or global sector to solve out the pipeline as much as possible. Like as if you're from a rural area, you don't think like resources, support, connectivity, or training. So if you're from the rural area as like from the single cities, so you can be engaged for the world as free of cost and totally is like a like some of the responsibility to us to solve it. So my vision is to connect every individual, every nation to the world as much as possible. Within as a 5 years is a lot of time for me or us as a government. Also, government try to solve the ecosystem and smoothness. So in 5 years, we see our ecosystem is a global model of the like. If you see like India is really doing great. They have made some of the unicorns.
Yes. Yes.
And some of the biggest founders that lead the every Southern Asia. So our vision also, Bangladesh can be made the global leaders, global founders. Also, because it's one of the unicorns, but it's too fast. So we need more unicorns, more founders to lead the global market, as you say, like logistics and some of the opportunity of cross-border. So I think within 5 years, it can be possible if you focus on the specific problem, specific connectivity. So I think after 5 years, if everyone is alive, then we can see Bangladesh is getting to great before the 5 years, after the 5 years, for the specifically in the cross-border payment gateway as a, because in we struggling for the global payment, because in here there's a PayPal is unavailable for the receiving and is also, and also pioneering supporting well, but it's like a single company is trying to solve out the problem, but it's not possible. Where is the come of the like blockchain transaction, cryptocurrency, and like fastest world is already adopted. Why we are so backdated for the technology? So one is the come of the payment gateway, smart solution, investment policy as a smooth policy. Then I think after 5 years, we can be as a one of the top 10 ecosystem of the, obviously we are now 89th position, but our target is within 5 years, we can be enter in the top 10 ecosystem of the world.
I hope so. I think that's a great goal. And what about you personally, Mahmood? What do you think you'll be doing?
So personally, as I'm not like we fix like one-man army, but as from my brand, it's like that. We are trying to solve out our nation who all the like as a live in USA, UK, and they're also set up some of the startup business from the country, because as you know, the UK, United Kingdom, there's a lot of Bangladeshi people from the Sylhet city. Yes. So there's a set of lot of ventures, lot of startups from the solving the game. I'm also saying that between UK GDP, like that, the people also contributing a lot. They made a lot of progress. So
absolutely,
not only our native nation, also we can be support our foreign nation to our local solution, so they can be adopted. After the world also be adopt the every solution, kind of like Amazon's now is a global tech giant, and also like the Amazon, Alibaba,
Mhm.
and Facebook. Like, so my thoughts is like, for after the 10 years or our vision, as I've said, our mission, our vision is my personally to build some of the as a unicorns and some global ventures to lead the global. So
Thank you.
personally, from my brand as a Jogo Team Limited, not only focusing digital marketing, we also focusing on the business development of brand. The concept is totally new in Bangladesh because we focus on the every stage of startups, and we just try to solve the every journeycal problem. Not only specifically like we have a app development, web development. Not only we just enter the whole services industry. So if you're an entrepreneur or if you want to scale up globally, then we also made some of the partnership with global venture, global organization. Then they can be moving as much as possible. So as a Jogo Team Limited is a like fastest growing, as some research said, and also we believe it like that. Our brand is growing so fast, and when our brand is growing, then obviously our some of the newcomers or we get more motivation to grow up the more as a person possible.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mahmood. And Yasser, what about you? What do you think?
Okay, so basically, right now, much of our startups not started business in outside of Bangladesh or doing business internationally. Only a few, like I want to mention Pathao, then Jatri, and another 2 or 3 startups currently doing business internationally. But since there are many promising startups are deeply working in the market, so they are trying to get product market in the okay. So basically, once actually they will get the right product market fit and will have the right kind of strategy with the team. Of course, they will look for the global market for sure. And right now, I know at least 20 startups are looking into the international possibilities from Bangladesh. And another thing is we have only 1 unicorn now, but there are 8 to 10 startups are in the pipeline. So hopefully we will get more unicorn in next couple of years. And after 5 years, since I shared one stat with you regarding big applications. So there were around 7,000 applications and another 7,000 to 8,000 startups over there in the space. So and it is growing much more heavily. So after 5 years, I think you may see there will be a very big startup ecosystem in Bangladesh. People will like our startups, investor will like us, and also we'll not solving the problem of Bangladesh, but we'll solving the problem internationally.
Thank you. And you personally, Yasser, what about you? What will you be doing in 5 years' time?
Yeah, of course. So as a startup founder, definitely I want to see that my startup will be an unicorn within this next 5 years. But most importantly, this is the valuation thing. But I want to see a much more people's life will be changed through our services. So we'll create the real impact, not only in Bangladesh, but of course in other countries.
Thank you. Well, thank you both very much. We're over an hour, so thank you. It's wonderful to hear all of your enthusiasm and obviously all your huge knowledge of the Bangladesh startup market. And I hope that everyone who joined has some takeaways about the entrepreneurship in the Bangladesh startup ecosystem. It's very inspiring how many small-scale businesses are doing so well, and we can see that many of them, including the Zovo team and Buy Now, I hope will become bigger, and including across perhaps Commonwealth nations and Commonwealth borders. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today, and thank you for the questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to every one of them. And thank you so much to Mahmood and Yasser for joining us. I do hope that we'll have another event and see you again soon. And thank you everybody for joining us. So
thank you.
Take care and goodbye.
Thank you, Julia, and thank you everyone. So
Thank
goodbye.
you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.